This is iTechEverything, and in this video it's a showdown. iPad 2 on the left versus the iPad 3 on the right. Let's get started. So first let's talk about cameras. On the front of the iPad 3, it has a front-facing VGA camera. And on the front of the iPad 2, it has a front-facing VGA camera. These are both the exact same, no change whatsoever. Going around the back of the iPad 2, you'll find a 0.7 megapixel. Yes, you heard me right. This is less than 1 megapixel camera. It does alright 720p video, but overall, this camera sucks. Going on to the iPad 3, we have a 5 megapixel back camera. As you can see, the lens is actually a bit bigger here. So yeah, 5 megapixels and 1080p video. Now let's talk about what's powering these guys. The iPad 2 has an A5 dual-core chip, and the iPad 3 has an A5X dual-core chip, but it has quad-core graphics. So basically, they have sort of the same processor, but the iPad 3 has quad-core graphics. So basically, the iPad 3 is a lot faster because you can use graphics for speed, for video editing, for photo editing. Basically, the iPad 3 has a much better processor. So let's get into the screens. The iPad 2 has a resolution of 1024 by 768, and the iPad 3 has a resolution of 2048 by 1536. So the iPad 3 has a pretty crazy resolution. And the iPad 2 has 130 pixels per inch, and the new iPad has 264 pixels per inch. Let's start off with the iPad 2. If we look up into the menu bar, you can see the iPad has sort of jagged edges around it. It doesn't look like a printed word. Yeah. And the Wi-Fi logo, like this screen doesn't look bad, don't get me wrong, but it just looks a bit fuzzy around the edges, especially when you compare it to this one. So I'll just describe what I'm seeing. And the clock, you can certainly see lots of fuzziness around the letters there. And on the rotation lock icon, you can certainly see a bit of fuzziness around that icon, and on the battery indicator. Let's compare the messages icon on the iPad 2. As you can see, it doesn't look like the sharpest thing in the world, to the new iPad. You can see how much greener it is and how much sharper this screen looks. This screen just looks fantastic. I'll just give you close-ups of all the apps. And once again, you're going to have to see this for yourselves in real life. And once again, the iPad 2. So as I keep saying, the screens are going to be really hard to capture on video. You're going to have to go out and see one in person. But to sum it up, this screen doesn't look bad, really, until you see this screen. And if you've been using an iPhone 4 an iPhone 4S, and then looking at the iPad going, man, this isn't that crisp, the iPad 3 or that new iPad certainly fixes that issue. So yeah, the new screen is really, really great, and for me personally, it'd be hard to go back to this after using such a high quality, beautiful screen. And also the color saturation on the new one is a lot better. I believe it has 40% greater color saturation. So that would explain why there's differences in color saturation on the icons, for example. You should be able to see that. The green on the messages icon on the new iPad is a lot greener and sharper than the old one. Basically, the new iPad screen looks like a glowing sheet of paper. It's that good. Now let's talk about ports. Every port is the same on the new one or the old one. Of course, we have that 30-pin dock connector. And we have our headphone jack. And yeah, they're the only ports on the iPad, aren't they? So 30-pin dock connector and headphone jack. Now let's talk about battery life. You'll get 10 hours on each model, so battery life is unchanged. Now let's talk about size and weight. The new one weighs 652 grams, so just over half a kilo. And the old one weighs 600 grams. So that's 50 grams difference. You really can't tell the difference. 50 grams is nothing. So they pretty much feel the same weight, however this one is a little heavier. Most likely because of the bigger battery, as I said, double capacity is in here to power the Retina display. And the new camera is also bigger, so there's probably more components in that. But yeah, 50 grams, I can't tell the difference in weight. Talking about the thickness of the two devices, the iPad 2 is 8.8mm thick, and the new iPad is 9.41mm thick. That is tiny, it's like half of a millimeter thicker. Now let's talk about the pricing. You can get the iPad 2 in a 16GB model for $400, and you can get the new iPad in a 16GB model for $500. So at only $100 more, I would say you're getting a much better deal going with the new iPad. So my personal recommendation would be to go for the iPad 3. However, those budget-conscious people, those people that don't really care at all about any of these features, that new price point will be a good option for them. Apple have discontinued all the models of the iPad 2, apart from the 16GB Wi-Fi and the 16GB Wi-Fi 3G. I believe the 16GB Wi-Fi 3G is $529, and the 16GB Wi-Fi 3G iPad 2 is $629. So it's $100 up each model. But of course with the new iPad it's Wi-Fi plus 4G. And Apple have discontinued all 30 other models of the iPad 2, so the 32GB, the 64GB and all that. They're only keeping the 16GB Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi plus 3G. So if you want one of these, you can probably get a discount at your local store. They're probably having sales on these at the moment. So yeah, I recommend the iPad 3. The iPad 3 is a fantastic upgrade. 2048 by 1536 screen versus 1024 by 768. That's the main selling point. Of course it's faster, has better graphics. It has a better rear-facing camera. It's a shame about the front-facing camera though. I was really hoping for FaceTime HD. But hey, you can't get everything, can you? They've got to keep out something for the next upgrade. Anyway, so that just about wraps up the video. Please give this video a thumbs up as I really appreciate it, and it helps me out a lot. Drop a comment down below. Are you rocking an iPad 2? Have you even got an original iPad? Or are you going for the new iPad? And yeah, click subscribe right above this video. And check out my channel. I've got plenty of videos covering the new iPad. And follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/iTechEverything. Link in the description down below. Don't you fall asleep. And I'll see you guys next time.